Who are the top 5 impact defenders on the Chiefs roster for 2023? And are there going to be any more today on Locked On Chiefs?
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back to Locked On Chiefs, folks. It is a Friday, not necessarily a red one, but I hope that it's red where you're at. We're going to have some fun here with the top 5 impact defenders that can make a difference this coming season. A lot to go over. Thanks for making us your first listen. I'm sure it'll be fun. I hope it'll be to your liking as well. Check out another Locked On show for your next listen. Whether it's the national shows, the draft recap is still going on NFL Draft. You have the Locked On NFL. You have every team under the sun. If you want to get some inside intel, check them out. This is going to be good for us because we're here every day, 5 days a week for all you everydayers. You locos, as we call our everydayers, are going to be happy with this. We're here all the time. Free. Easy to sub on YouTube. You can like and sub and hit the bell right now. It's super simple. You can get subscribed on all the audio platforms, including Spotify and Apple. Makes life easy. So please go and do those as well. If you are not already, welcome to Locked On Chiefs. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, as well as RGR Football.
And I'm Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner, and there is a lot to talk about when we start talking about the top 5 defensive impact players that this team has. And there's going to be a little bit of a discussion here on whether or not we agree on some, but I do want to throw out a caveat real quick. I don't think we can put Chris Jones in there, much like we couldn't put Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. It's too obvious. So okay. I think I'm going to go 5 other players just because Jones is obviously going to be the most impactful player. I don't think there's any question about that.
Okay, I can get down with that. And I mean, he's the focus of every defensive coordinator, so that makes sense. Let's take that, and that limits his impact, obviously, than his straight pass rush ability, which I don't think anybody's going to be in doubt of, especially if the contract extension doesn't come before the beginning of the season. You're going to see a absolutely on-fire Chris Jones this season, so you might enjoy being here for that as well. So who else can make the impact in the ball game? So that makes perfect sense to me. So where do you start? And if you guys want to get on the action, let us know your opinions. You can hit us. Go text 816-357-8781 and get into the group now. It's a new concept. We're going to work on texting, making things easier to communicate with the fan base in Chiefs Nation, Chiefs Kingdom, Rogue Nation, all of you guys, whatever you want to call yourselves, before this season gets going and camp opens. So
those locos.
Los locos.
Yeah.
You go first. Who's the next guy?
It's tough. You look at the defense, and actually, number one isn't really tough. Past Chris Jones, number one has got to be Nick Bolton. I don't think there's another guy that you could really go with at number one. If we're taking Chris Jones out of the mix, Nick Bolton is going to be that guy. He had, 180 tackles last year and just absolutely blossomed as a player and really is possibly on the verge, and we talked about this earlier, possibly on the verge of being an all-pro.
Yeah.
Definitely a Pro Bowl player, but also on the verge of being all-pro.
Yeah, that's what makes the difference. And you're going to say, well, what's the impact an inside linebacker can have? Well, you saw it. You saw it in the Super Bowl. Be prepared. Be in position. Make the plays when they come to spot. It. Right. Especially with his role as the mic. Some of the other players, we can make arguments about whether their contributions are going to be a little more individualistic. But yes, exactly. And so is he the best athlete on the field? No. Is he the best linebacker on the field? Yes. That's really not in doubt. He might be on the best linebacker on the field no matter who they play. That's the really interesting part.
Yeah, and he is a fantastic linebacker. And I think that when you look at what we thought he was going to be and what he struggled with his first year in the preseason in the first couple of games, we thought that it was going to be a struggle and they were going to have issues with him being on the field. Obviously, that is a thing of the past. I'm not saying that he doesn't have things that he needs to work on and things that he can improve on. All players do. Even Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is always working on something to improve himself. But you look at what he's able to do and what he has meant to this defense and the way he's played and the way he's played through things. I mean, he's been injured at times. You've seen him get hurt on the field, but stay on the field at the same time. So he is by far the biggest impact player on the defense outside of Chris Jones.
Yeah, you'll get no argument from me. It sets it up as not just the field captain because he's got eyes up and he's able to scan the field, But just like the Super Bowl play, being in position when he needs to be in position. We've talked about how he's overplayed what I thought his top end in pass coverage was going to be. Is he going to be a turn and run cover on any tight end in the league? No, that's not his thing. But what he does is drop to a spot. He drops aware. He does what he needs to do and plays his game. And if you're at the top of that game, that goes a long way.
No, it does. And he's never going to have the speed to be able to be one of those coverage linebackers, but he doesn't have to. He knows the angles. His instincts really give him more, or are very helpful to him more so than a lot of other positions, because he's reading and reacting before things actually come to him. So that helps him as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is what it comes down to. He should be all pro this year. Ula Khan from Jacksonville beat him by 4 combined tackles last year. 4. That is impressive. And the funny thing is, we're going to talk about another player here down the line that wasn't that far behind him either. The level of linebacker plays coming up on this roster, it's headlined by Nick Bolton. It arranges what you're able to do at that level to support not just the pass rush in front of you, but the coverage behind you, particularly with young safeties, new safeties. That's going to come into play quite a bit. And I like where you're heading there. So it's Chris Jones. It's Nick Bolton. Captains for a reason. We have the hierarchy. There's your number one impact player on the defense. Who are the guys that can support them and start to make plays right behind them, day in, day out, game in, game out? We'll talk about them on the backside of this.
If you're looking for a delicious snack but don't want all of the sugar and the calories, then you absolutely have to try Built Bar. They are the best protein bar ever. If you're like me and you want to make healthier snack choices but you don't want to compromise on taste, you have to try Built Bars and Built Puffs. They are healthy and they taste amazing. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and cookies and cream. I'm not sure how Built does it, but they only have 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't have to wait and order them online. You can go get them at Sam's Club or Walmart. Or you can get the specialty flavors still at Built.com. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream bar, double chocolate bar, or coconut puff. And if you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box of hit flavors, brownie batter puff, and churro puff. You can definitely thank us later.
They just got a new one as well, coconut puff brownie chunk. That's the next one on my list. I'll be ordering that tonight. So just wanted to let you guys know that it's out there if you're a coconut fan like me. Okay. Speaking of being nuts, I need crazy out-of-the-pocket nutso plays from time to time. I need somebody that can just say, I'm going to take this over right now, and I'm going to be the difference maker. Who has the ability to make that impact? For me, it comes down to the guy that I'm really interested to see if this turns into a contract battle. But L'Jarius Sneed, I believe, is the guy that can go do that. Has he pulled down as many interceptions as we would hope the last few years? No. Is he due? Yes. If he doesn't get the extension before camp, he's in a contract year. That, as our friend Therese always said, will win every time, no matter what, and the Chiefs will reap the benefits. Now, I hope that he gets extended and is here for the duration of his career. But either way, he is ascending to the point where if they can get viable nickel play that he doesn't have to contribute, I think he can go outside. I think he can travel with teams number ones, and I think he can be the guy that takes away part of the field for the opposition, and that is worth it for me. I think he's the next guy to be the next impact player on this defense.
Yeah, and I can't argue with you on that. L'Jarius Sneed is continually impressed year to year to year. The only question mark with him is whether or not he's going to be able to stay healthy and whether or not he can avoid the concussions. If he can get past that, he's going to be in great shape, and this defense is going to be much better with him on it. I completely agree with you. I think that if he is able to be a guy that can not necessarily have to be inside because you have somebody else that can go inside and can do that, then you're going to be in a better position than you are right now. And I do think that it's important to be able to get a a corner that can go and travel with wide receivers from time to time. There are some teams that have number ones that if you can have somebody travel with them, you take away one of the hardest things on the field to guard, and it really opens up what you can do on defense. And you don't necessarily have to have, double teams on that guy. Or in certain scenarios, this is the other thing. What did Bill Belichick do for years? He basically put his shutdown corner on the number 2 guy and doubled the number 1. And that allows you to take away half the field.
And it's funny you say that, because I can hear people out there. Now, Trace, if he's number 1, he's not going to get targeted enough. Well, the numbers don't lie. As good as he is, they keep targeting him. They give him opportunities to go attack the ball, PBUs, INTs. They are there for the taking. And I think it's just a split second. You can hear it in his voice when LJ talks to the press, when he talks about his teammates in particular. He thinks he's the fiercest guy on this roster, and that's what I need him to show this year. I think that he can do it. And it's not just in one facet or another. We know he can blitz. We know he can come up and support the run. It's simply taking the ball away by PBU and INT. That's all I need from him.
Yeah, and if he's able to do that, then it's going to be – the Chiefs are going to be in a much better situation, and he's going to make a lot of money whenever he signs his contract. If it's before the year because Chris Jones gets signed, great. If it's not, then he's going to make a lot of money on the open market next year, or maybe the Chiefs will get him signed before he hits free agency. When you start looking at the next guy, the number 3 guy, I am back and forth on this one a little bit, and I'm going to go with George Karlaftis. Because to me, he has the ability to be the next most impactful player. It's a question of whether he reaches that ability or not this season.
I think that is a good question. And it's funny. I actually have him 4th. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the next segment. But so far, you and I have Nick Bolton. Both of us have him 1. We both have L'Jarius 2. So Karlaftis, can he take that next step forward? That's going to be the big thing, because they haven't brought in a quote-unquote pass rush specialist. Felix Anudike-Uzomah is a guy that needs development. He is not a finished product. He's not ready to walk in and be a bookend that can get to the passer with ease every third down. They have also brought in Charles Omenihu, who some will argue, and rightfully so, that he's as good, if not better, playing inside next to Chris Jones at a 3-tech position than he is outside on the edge. Although I have to say, from what we've seen in OTAs, he does look trimmer to me. Looks like he is preparing to be a full-time edge to me that just comes down and uses quickness inside. But he has the length. He has everything that you need. Are any of those guys ready to be contributors to that level? I don't think so. So that falls on George Karlaftis right now to take that step forward and be somebody that not only can bull rush, but can turn tackles, can attack outside shoulder, can counter inside. That's the next step in his game, and I expect to see it more. I just had him a little bit lower because that's a little bit far away from where he is right this second.
And I agree with you on that. I get why you're saying that. To me, what it really comes down to is it's multifaceted for me. It's not just what he can do pass rush wise. He's got huge steps to fill when it comes to Frank Clark and stopping the run. He's got to be able to step up and stop the run. And I know this is a passing league and everything, and I get that. But if you can't stop the run, and if you're not setting the edge as a run defender, you're going to get run over, and teams are going to continually run the ball over you. And that's going to be a problem. He has to work on that. He has to be close to as efficient as Frank Clark was. And Frank Clark was great at setting the edge. So those are some big shoes to fill in that regard. And if he's able to do that, if he's able to get there by the end of the season, and he's able to show the pass rush because of what Chris Jones is able to do and the other guys around him, I do think he is the number 3 guy. Who's yours?
I can live with that. And I know for all of you that are screaming at your phone right now, Frank Clark could be back on this roster. You're absolutely right. This is the top 5 weapons right now on the defensive side. Frank shows up, we will reissue our top 5s.
I don't know that he would hit the top 5 with the way he played.
Really? Okay. That's going to be an argument for the day that happens. Okay.
With the way he played last season until the playoffs, I don't know that he would hit it.
Okay. Well, we'll see if we have to have that argument when the time comes. We are running late in the second segment. So my number 3 guy is Justin Reed. We'll talk about him on the backside of this. I will talk about him because I really feel like a year in, having made the adjustment, having learned not to talk in Cincinnati week, having learned to be a leader with your play on the field, I feel like this is the point just like when a rookie comes in for his second season, I think this is the point that Justin Reed can take off. And I think we saw him play more disciplined down the stretch. I think we saw him do his role, play his job to its fullest in kind of commanding the back. I do feel they're tutoring Brian Cook to come in and take some of that load off of him so he can do a little bit more. And that's what I'm looking for. It's not necessarily high pointing the ball and taking away INTs. I'm looking for Justin Reed to hit more this year, to knock the ball loose, to force fumbles, to come down against the run as well. I think he's going to be a little bit more all over the formations. Yes, I think he will get a couple picks, but I think it's more about the forced fumbles that I'm looking for him. And I do feel like he's a guy that had this reputation to hold up to as Tyron's replacement again. And he's got to pay it off now. This is go time for him in his career. If he doesn't ascend to the point where he can be considered a Pro Bowler now, he's not going to get there. This is his prime year, so I want to see it.
And that's fair. And I will say this. We already know who your number 4 is. Is there anything more you want to say about Karlaftis really quick?
Go, George.
Fair enough. For me, when I start looking at my number 4, quite frankly, I understand why you're going with Reed. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm going with Trent McDuffie. And maybe that's a surprise. But with what you saw from him when he came back from his injury through the end of the season, you saw a rookie corner that stepped in. And I'm not going to say he shut down half the field, but he got pretty close. If he's able to take another step forward and they have 2 legitimate corners that can basically shut down their receivers, they're going to be in a situation where they're going to be able to do a lot of things on defense that they couldn't do before. And that is really going to help slow down offenses, because when the corners are sticky like that, it allows you to send more guys in blitzes from different positions. It allows you to, maybe drop guys into different zones than they normally would, because you trust this guy and this guy to go get somebody in man. And maybe you can take away throws that open up because of softer zones and areas.
Okay, I can get down with that. So to recap, folks, I have Justin Reed 3. I have George Karlaftis 4. Chris has George Karlaftis 3 and Trent McDuffie 4. I like the concept because you got to have a pair of them, right? You need pillars at the cornerback spot, especially when we all know if you write up any starting lineup, there's 3 corners in it because nickels are real. They're not going away. They're a permanent fixture of this league at this point. So you got to have 2 of them that can take at least something away. And I agree with you. I do think I was very encouraged after the injury that's kind of set him back in his development, his adaptation to the league. I do feel he came on. Again, another guy that I think has a large leap he can take in this next year. I think he surprised people by being so comfortable in man when he didn't do a lot of that in college. Now, he didn't get a ton of takeaways in college, but he can.
And really quick, I just want to say that's one of the reasons why I think he's number 4 is because I think he is going to take that huge leap. I expect him to take a huge leap. After what we saw last year, he showed that the game wasn't too big for him, and he adapted very quickly. And having just another year in the system is really going to help, and I think it's going to accelerate his development.
I think you're probably right. And before I forget, folks, for those of you that have been asking about this hat, you can get it at bit.ly/RGR store. Or you can just hit RGR football. It'll be all over that. You can find it very easily. Okay, that brings us to our last guys in these top 5 lists. And I'm going to go out on a limb because you kind of set me up really well. I went Reed, back of the defense in the middle. You came in at corner. Well, if those guys are on their games, L'Jarius Sneed we talked about earlier, if everybody's covered and you're taking away multiple receivers, what happens? You got to go to the middle of the field. And who's the guy that can change things this year in 2023 that didn't do anything for this team in 2022? His name's Drew Tranquil, and he's going to be out there in coverage. They played it up this OTA session very largely about the fact he was not promised a starting job. Okay.
Which is smart.
Yes, but he'll be out there in past situations, I guarantee you. My question is, does he have the experience to take over for Nick on 3rd down and let the better athlete in Willie Gay be out there? Or is it he is replacing Willie Gay as the 4-2 linebacker that's out there with Nick? That's going to be the most intriguing part because that determines where he's going to line up positionally and how many opportunities he will have as well. The guy has made some plays, even while he was in Los Angeles, San Diego, whatever you want to call it.
I wonder if they're not going to be they're going to be in nickel less. I do think that you can adapt the defense a little bit and maybe use Tranquil in certain scenarios where you wouldn't have normally stayed in a 4-2 last year, or you would have stayed in a 4-2 last year, where maybe you don't this year. Maybe you keep him on as a linebacker because of his coverage ability and his coverage skill. I do think he could be a huge addition to this defense if he's able to step in and play. And one of the things that was really encouraging for me is when they came out and said they're not going to give him a starting role, he came out and said, "I love that." That has challenged me everywhere I've gone, and it's worked out well for me. So that makes me happy about that pickup.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm here for the horses. We all know how I feel about athleticism. And folks, if you're new to the show, athleticism for me trumps all in terms of evaluation. If you can play the game and you have athleticism, you're going to get on the field. I am all for seeing a Willie Gay, Drew Tranquil package behind what I would like to see is a bear front, but that's the way that I roll. Either way, getting more athleticism at the middle tier. It was a point of emphasis for me last year that it was the second level defenders and the middle of the field defenders that were going to get attacked a lot. If what we've talked about today comes to fruition, I think that's even more so. But now that I think they have the athletes to run the middle if they're going to play a Tampa 2 kind of thing, they could turn and run with some tight ends. Not all of them, but some of them in this league. And that changes what they're able to do.
Yeah, and I also wonder with the way the league has gone in some regards, and if you look at maybe a team like Buffalo specifically, is this a scenario where they stay in maybe a 4-3 base more because they're going to be coming out with 2 tight end sets? Does that give you the ability if they have 2 tight ends on the field, are you going to possibly stay in a 4-3 because maybe they don't have 3 wide receivers out there? They're not going to have 3 wide receivers out there. I think that could possibly change, and they have the guys that can run with some of those tight ends, and they can kind of change the coverages that they normally do and throw things off. So that's going to be something to watch as well with Tranquil. I'm really curious to see how that plays out, especially because teams are going to more of a 2 tight end set at times because teams have a hard time defending it.
Okay, so here's the scenario, and I'm glad that you bring up the double tights because 12 personnel, in my opinion, lends itself to playing a 3-man front and doing the Joe Cullen set, where you have 4 linebackers on the field, allowing Drew Tranquil to play outside and run, allowing Willie Gay to turn and run with both Leo Chenal and Nick Bolton in the middle to shore up those inside gaps. That's what I am preferably wanting to see against 12 personnel.
Yeah, you could see that as well. I mean, it could go either direction. Point is you're having 7 up front as opposed to having 6.
That's what happens when you have 2 tights, right?
Yeah, that's what you would figure. But the Chiefs have generally gone to 3 safeties instead of going with another linebacker because they haven't had a linebacker that can do what Tranquil can or what Tranquil and Gay together can. So that's, I think, where it could really be interesting to see how that turns out. Number 5 for me, I'm going to go Justin Reed. I do agree with you. I think he's going to have possibly a very good season. I didn't see what I was hoping to see last year from him, but I'm not going to say I was really disappointed either. I think he played well for the most part, but in a new system, you're going to have a little bit of growing pains. I think he did have that early on, and I think that he started to get better as the season went on, and he didn't have any huge lapses. That was the big thing. So if he can take a step forward this season, get a couple of PBUs, get a couple of hitting the receivers hard as they're trying to catch the ball across the middle, got to be careful how you do that because of the way the league is throwing flags now, and maybe get a couple of picks. That's going to be huge for this defense.
Yeah, it definitely will. Who steps up and makes that big impact? We're going to track that through OTAs, through camp, and then obviously in the season. But that's where they stand right now. Make sure if you want in on that subtext list, get to 816-357-8781 with a text, and you will get a response. You can sign up, and we're all going to be in there using that system. I think it's going to be something new and fun. New and fun is what this defense is going to be, and I hope it allows them to be more aggressive. It's what I'm generally always looking for, and I think they have the horses to do it. There's a lot of athleticism on this team now, more so than there has been in years past. When Keandre Coburn is your big middle guy, and he's as athletic as he is, that's a big plus. Now, I know Danny Shelton's still out there. Don't worry, I didn't forget about Danny. But we'll see what Danny does. So,
yeah. Do you have other guys that they're bringing in that have the skill sets at the corner or safety position to be able to blitz as well, which Kansas City is used very effectively at times, but having extra guys that can do that gives you the ability to disguise and really, send pressure from different places. I think that's going to also play out and be a lot of fun to watch.
That's a great concept for a show. I like where you're going. So we're going to get to the point. Who has A non-Chris Jones top sack number next week, folks. We will have that debate. We want your input. You can put it here, but get ready for next week as well. We are going to be back 5 days a week. We are on this channel, and I hope that you will be here with us because we cover all the topics 360 degrees around this team, and there's always something going on. We'll have more from OTAs next week, but in the meantime, like, sub, hit the bell, get signed up on the audio platforms.
Yeah, and I just want to say, with Memorial Day coming up, thank you to all the veterans and everybody that served. That's always been something very important to me. So thank you for that. And for any first responders or any of those people, anybody that's ever served, thank you so much.
Yeah, and take it easy on Memorial Day, folks. Let the first responders have a little bit of a lighter night. Knock on wood. I hope that you all enjoy the long weekend. We will have some content for you, so don't be without your headphones wherever you are. Have a great one. Be safe, and we'll talk to you next time.